Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to get into a little more on the automobile. And today we're going to start talking about steering. Like always, let's go ahead and get started with our PowerPoint. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with you. All right. Um, when you think about steering and you think that it's all about just the steering wheel and stuff like that. But there's a lot more to it. There's some safety features that are also involved in the steering wheel. Um, Early on, we had a lot of solid steering wheels, and there was quite a bit of safety concerns. And because of it being a solid column and all, and no really safety features to it, there was actually some deaths attributed to accidents because trying to make the car safer and safer and safer, even heavy duty equipment too. They started implementing some features to it too. So we'll talk a little bit about that and also about how what's inside that steering wheel there. So let's go ahead and get started. So, one of the things that we have in the automobile is airbags. Now you've heard a lot of information either online or uh, through the news, about some of the airbags that have been defective, and it's very true. Uh, there are some new ones. The best way to find out is you can actually go to National Safety Traffic Administration uh, uh, online, and they have a list of recalls. And also, if you look at your automobile and contact a dealer, sometimes the dealer will post it online too. It'll tell you if there is an actual a safety recall on that airbag. And I really highly recommend that you get it taken care of very quickly. They're made to make it safer, but because of some defects in the making of the airbag, it can and it can cause harm. I'm not just saying always death, but there's been some cases that have went to court over the defective airbags. But they are made to help with the impact part. Uh, Cars that continue to evolve into safety features. Now we've had accident avoidance systems. You've heard of the autonomous cars where they drive themselves, but they're still relying on somebody to be sitting in the driver's seat too. So here, right in this area here was where your airbag would be, and they have a lot of different features. So you don't have to take your eye off the road and go and mess with your radio, or maybe you're going to flip up a different screen or something like that. And it can actually be done right through the steering wheel here, compared to what it used to be. And also, you can answer your phone. You know, Again, another safety feature. One of the things they found out is people were texting on their phone, or they would be talking on their phone, and they'd had the phone up to their ear, and that took away from them driving. So a lot of these features have been implemented as they went along. So the airbag again is kind of a little cushion, and this cushion helps whenever you have a impact. It's not very good for the side impacts, which are another scary thing. But more and more of the cars are putting in actually like a airbag curtain that comes across when there's a side impact, and they're done by just different little sensors throughout the car that it actually sense that actual impact, and then they'll bring back this information to a module. Now this module have to see more than one sensor saying, hey, there is an impact, because then we would have maybe a sensor that would fail and send off a signal that there was an impact when there wasn't, and then that airbag would go off, and that could actually cause an accident too. So they have done a lot of thinking, thought process, and actually putting this actual feature together. But Before airbags, before the collapsible steering wheels, we did have some injuries from front impacts and stuff like that. So this is just showing an airbag, and these go off very, very quickly. It's not like it takes a while. They sense, they do, and they actually have the airbag inflate, and then it helps you from going forward and possibly crushing your chest or hitting your head. Um, and it is all good stuff. All cars have an airbag in them, and a lot of them have air curtains too. So here is a typical airbag steering column, I should say, and this has the actual the inflator module here, and then there's a bunch of other pieces. There is a coil because again, you don't have it solid wired in. It's going to have to spin, so there's an actual set of fingers that are inside. I'm just using that word fingers. It's actually some contacts that are actually go around and make contact. It helps with your horn, and it also helps with that um, being able to turn the wheel too. So it has all this inside that actual steering wheel. The alignment, this is important for you folks that are going to be doing alignments, and you may have to take the steering wheel off for a service or so on. Even people are just doing service work. You want to make sure you always put the steering wheel in the back, same position. So you're going to be indexing that. So how you do it is there's usually a set of lineup marks on the after you take the cover off the airbag and all. And one thing about that airbag too, be very careful when handling it. There is a special procedure when you're actually taking the airbag module off of the actual steering wheel. If you do it incorrectly, you could actually cause that to inflate, and it is very scary. There's a big bang to it, and there's been technicians that have been hurt. But there's actually a safety protocol and a procedure for making sure that doesn't happen. So you want to make sure you take that time and go through the actual go through the actual information on how to disarm an airbag before you go much farther. So, and then you want to make sure it's all lined up, the steering wheel. Maybe you're doing some service work, and this is what you're going to do. You want to make sure. Now, here is a puller, and this is one style puller for an actual steering steering wheel, to take the steering wheel off, because maybe I'm changing a turn signal switch or something inside the column I have to repair, and I'm going to have to pull it off. These are really tightly pushed in. I know a few guys that pull really hard, but they sometimes can break part of the steering wheel by doing that. So this is a special puller. And this is what I was kind of talking a little bit about on the column. This little shaft here kind of slides up inside this other shaft. So whenever there is a front impact, which may cause the body to move a little bit, it actually causes it to slide up inside. And that takes some of that. It's not solid anymore. It takes a little bit of that to come up. But here is a shaft. This is just one style. Not all of them are the same. This actually has the tilt mechanism too. So it doesn't just, it's not just solid. You can actually tilt it up and around. And down here, because there is not a solid right to the steering gear, there actually has to be a little bit of a movement. And so we have a set of U-joints that actually, allow it, pivot a little bit. Here's another one right down in the bottom here that's going right up into the steering gear itself. Here is another style here, and this is just another way of doing it. This is just the steering shaft going into a different type of a coupler. And here's some more pieces to it. And this is just showing you some different styles that they have out there. And believe me, not one fits all. And here is how it actually couples up. So here's your steering shaft going all the way up to your steering wheel. And this is where it connects to the steering gear. This one actually happens to be a rack and pinion type setup here. So this is where it lines up to. This is where it takes this movement from here, and it causes the wheels to actually, turn whichever direction you need them to go. And it's all mounted up into the dash. You got to have some kind of support, and it's bolted. And when you're doing service work, you may have to drop this down to actually access some of the components. Again, this is showing you how some of the different steering columns are put together. This is an actual shaft, the shaft like I showed you before, where this shaft slides down inside that tube assembly there. And there's actually a bearing in here too. But this is another collapsible type that it's got kind of like a mesh to it. So when anything ever happens, it kind of crushes. And believe me, after a severe accident where these actually go into play, you don't want to just, pound them out, straighten them up. It loses that ability to crush correctly, and you want to replace this, and unfortunately I've seen a few occasions because the shop I used to work at did a lot of after accident repairs for some body shops, and the body shops would actually, I'm not saying all of them, there's a few of them that would reuse these things. They pound them out and straighten them up and stuff like that. That is not the correct repair. These are kind of a one time only, and we would actually go in and recommend that they replace this. And usually the insurance companies are really good about getting that done. So here's that mount again. And this is a breakaway type support. And not unlike the other ones, this actually would, snap, when it get under enough pressure, and then it would actually cause it not to, like I said, it wouldn't allow it to crush. Here is a couple different types of tilt mechanisms. They have, this one is just a kind of like a tilt lever down on the bottom here, and you kind of, you push it or pull it, and it actually allows you to bring that, the mechanism up and down. Here is actually another tilt type, and here is another tilt. And here, it shows a little tilt lever here and shows you a little bit more. So here's where that airbag module would be, and here the shaft going on down, and you would have, this one actually has an electric steer instead of hydraulic steer. It has electric steer. So here's my power steering motor here, and then it goes into the joints that going down to the actual steering gear. Now, because of hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles, we had to go and develop a new system, and this system was electric instead of hydraulic. We originally had hydraulic or manual steering, and because of including hybrid and electric vehicles, there had to be some way of allowing assisted steering, which is the power steering on this particular one here. And this is electric, fully electric. And here again, showing you that actual, shaft, and the splines. So these splines, depending on the model, they may have a blank spline in them. And what I mean by that is that there would be, equal splines going around, but there might be a double spline. And that would be that kind of index for that steering wheel. Not always, but sometimes they have that. So you got to be very, you don't have to worry about how my alignment is much. But if you have a wheel that's steering wheel's off, then you really need to start looking at the body itself. Did it get crushed? Also, you want to look at the alignment, see if something happened, and all that you would be looking at to get it back to straight steering wheel again. Okay, this is again showing a little bit here. It's what they call a toe plate. For the steering shaft, helps seal out noise. whenever you have any kind of, and this happens, you're going to have customers. Hopefully, you don't have customers that complain about noise. And there was a cute little article I read not too long ago about not enough noise. Actually, some people were feeling kind of sick when it was totally super quiet. Some of the Mercedes Benz were so quiet that some people were experiencing nausea because they were so used to not some kind of noise. So um, Mercedes Benz actually still had the seal, but they actually included a noise to make people feel a little bit better. A kind of cute little article. But this is just showing how they can actually, get some of that noise and moisture from coming inside of the actual passenger compartment. And here again is kind of showing you, the different pieces to it and how it actually is put together. It's just a little bit different. Still, again, it's still got almost the same stuff to it. You've got that shaft, you got the steering wheel, you got all the covers. Covers are kind of like the beauty part of it to make it look nice. And you've got your joints going in and down to your rack and pinion steering here. And here's just showing what they sometimes call the bowl. And this is where the bearings and all are inside the actual steering column. You need something to support everything, or else you get a bunch of banging going on, especially when you go over bumps and stuff like that. So these bearings are to keep the shaft straight and allow you to spin it with a little bit of ease. And this is showing a lock plate. This is for your anti-theft. And I know nowadays most cars are just push button like that, but we had with steering columns with a turnkey upon the actual steering column. You put it into the off, lock position, and this would actually cause this lock plate to go into play, and it caused it to lock up the steering column. And this is showing you the steering gear itself, and how it actually works. This is a steering box, versus a steering box versus a rack and pinion. And this has a little worm gear inside. You'll really get more into it when you get deep into your suspension steering class. But in a nutshell, what we're doing is we're taking and spinning this from the steering column, and this is actually changing that motion to, instead of this way, it's changing it to a rocking type motion, which actually causes the linkage to go back and forth. This next slide actually shows a little bit better. So here I'm spinning it, and by using this linkage affair on the steering box system, I'm actually moving this back and forth. Instead of spinning, I'm going back and forth here, just causing the wheels to go back and forth. And this is, kind of showing one of the pieces inside of it is what they call a sector shaft. And then, here we go, a different ratio. So we have different, what they mean by that is you can have sports steering or standard steering, and it's just how fast it actually causes it to go back and forth. This is what the steering box looks like with the sector shaft and all. So here's my pitman arm, and here's my sector shaft, sector gear, I should say. And then here's the actual gear that actually changes that rotation to a back and forth type motion. Again, just showing you another blown up picture of the actual steering gear and all, and it a little bit all together here, which it really does help kind of show you where all the different parts. They use a bunch of balls and bearings inside, and these bearings actually help. Again, like before, they were to actually allow it to go smoothly. And this gearbox is really packed with depending if it's a manual steering or an I should say a power steering. And this is the hydraulic type one. We actually have fluid inside of it to help with lubrication. If it's a manual steering, they usually pack it with a grease to actually help keep those moving around nice and smoothly. This is where they're setting up the steering box, so using a spanner wrench to actually set it up. And it's just showing some of the measurements that we do to make sure that it's locked down in place. So this is kind of like a little bit of a lock. And this is, again, they're actually setting up the adjustment on this too, on the worm gear. So we have, we don't want too much movement up and down when we're going through this part of the steering. So we're actually kind of truing that out a bit. You got to have a little bit of motion so the grease or the fluid can actually get in there to help lubricate, but you don't want too much or else you have a lot of play in the steering wheel. Again, they're showing another, talking about the in play. And then on rack and pinion steering is a little bit different. We get away from the gearbox that you've seen earlier. Now this is going into a different setup, which is more, I would say, more efficient, as far as steering goes, and it has a better response because with the power steering box, you have to go through a bunch of linkage to make things go back and forth. So you're thinking about all these wear points. As a mechanic, that's what I'm thinking about. Okay, what can wear out? What can wear out? What can wear out? When you have all this linkage, there's a lot of stuff. The little balls inside the linkage can actually wear out if they're not lubricated properly. And this is when you go into rack and pinion, it's a little bit different. Now, instead of having a motion going from with linkage, now I'm actually doing a motion directly. And this is how it does it. So from the steering shaft going on up, we're coming on down to an actual pinion. And this pinion has a rack, this rack here. So that pinion kind of rides on top of it and it actually spins the wheels back and forth through this little shaft assembly. So really simple in a way, but it actually does give a better response. So instead of having all that linkage, all you have is some rods going out, and these rods will actually go to a tie rod end, and it goes actually to the knuckle of the steering gear. The steering wheel. So instead of having all this stuff, it's kind of really, less stuff to wear. I'm not saying it doesn't have wear points. We do have the inner tie rod can wear, the outer tie rod can wear, and these are a little bit, I wouldn't say easier to find when you're doing your inspections, but they are, kind of a simpler system. And this is just showing again, how they actually, they load up the rack to make it all work. This is what it looks like when it's in actually in the body. This is, you will see if you raise up the vehicle, you'll see this bellows affair here, and you'll have another bellows on the other side, and then it's all bolted up onto a frame piece here. And here shows a little bit, another way of doing it. They're all different systems. They're all like, again, manufacturers do different ways of mounting them up and all like that. So this is one way, and here's that steering arm or knuckle, as they call it. This is where it goes out to the wheels, so you can see how much simpler it is. It just spins it back and forth. Another way, showing the pinion torque on it. And it's again showing some bearings, and it's here all that preload. And this is actually showing one of the adjustments that we can actually do on them to make it a little bit better as far as our steering goes. Again, a lot of this stuff is set up by factory. You really shouldn't have to make these adjustments. If you're having to go in to make some adjustments here, I would really look at that rack as probably having some fault, and I would suspect that normally from factory on out, they're pretty good for a longevity, but after a period of time they do wear out, and there's simple there's signs that they're wearing out. Let's put it that way. Those bellows can fill up with oil because the seals are leaking on it. You can actually have, or if you have an electric steer, you'll have to see signs of it not working, or being very stiff in the morning to go from one side to another. That's a dead sign for steering gear pinion going, failing on you too. So there's all kinds of different ones. You'll learn more about this in your suspension and steering classes, but this is what I wanted to share with you on, columns and getting into the, steering boxes and the actual getting into uh, the hydraulic versus the electric. We'll go more on the electric in just a little bit here, but I wanted to show you some comparison of the all. So this is it for this presentation. I do want to remind you again, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share on this here. But I do want to remind you again, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to contact me in the inbox. I've been reaching out to a few of you, trying to assist you in, kind of bumping up your grade. I'd really like to see all A's, but you have to meet me halfway. You have to do the work, basically. It is. I'll assist you as much as I can, but I want to make sure that you understand that you are, have to do the work. If it is a general question, a misread, I should say, hey, class misread, I'm not sure what he meant by this. Did you understand what he said? Please feel free to go into the student lounge. I mean, again, it's in the discussion group, and I try to tag it on your quizzes, and it's a forum for you as students to get to know each other, and also you can get general questions a lot easier. And if it's something that I jump in there every once in a while to see what's going on. If there's a question that maybe I can answer better than anybody else, I'll actually give it to everybody, so everybody knows the answer, instead of me individually going to each one of you, because we started up with 40 students in this class. And believe me, if I had to do emails to 40 students, it would take quite a bit of time. Whereas if I just do one, it can actually get to all of you, and you all can get the answer, and and then you'll be good with it. If it is a personal, something, something happens in your life or something, I definitely want to make sure I hear about it. Again, I'm going to try to help you as much as possible. Or if it's something about your grade, and if there's any way I can help you, I definitely want to. So feel free to inbox me. The best way to do it, folks, is to inbox. Don't, you can email me directly, that's fine. But if you go to the inbox, I tend to get that a little bit faster because it goes right to my phone. My email goes to my phone too. But folks, I probably get on an average 100 emails a day from the college. Some of the stuff is, pertinent to our classes. Some of it's just for college stuff. And I want to be able to get back to you as soon as possible. So please, the inbox is the best way to do it. All right. So until the next time, I will be talking to you. Take care, and we'll be talking. Bye for now.